I wasn't supposed to be successful. At least, that's what my family believed. My name is Tori Bennett, and I'm 32 years old. And for 2 entire years, my own mother told everyone I was in rehab. Not recovering. Not healing. Locked away. Broken.
Gone.
But the truth was something they never expected. I wasn't in rehab. I wasn't even in the country. I was in Berlin, building something from nothing. But let me go back to where this all started, because lies like this don't appear overnight. They grow. Slowly. Quietly. Until they replace your entire identity. In my family, I was always the problem child. Not because I was reckless. Not because I failed. But because I didn't fit their narrative. My brother was the achiever. My cousin was the golden example. And I was the one who questioned things too much. Families like mine don't always need you to be bad. They just need you to be inconvenient. And I became inconvenient the moment I refused a safe corporate job my parents chose for me. My mother called it rebellion. My father called it immaturity. But I called it survival. I left the United States at 27.
No dramatic goodie.
No family blessing. Just a one-way flight and a suitcase that barely closed. They thought I would come back in a few months. They always think that. But I didn't come back. Because I had already started something online. Something small. Something no one in my family understood. A logistics software idea. A platform to simplify international supply chains. At first, it was just me in a tiny apartment in Berlin. Cold coffee. Late nights. Broken English conversations with strangers on video calls. No investors. No support.
No applause.
Just persistence. Back home, my silence turned into something else. Something darker. My mother needed an explanation for my absence. And she found the easiest one. Rehab. It started small. A comment to a relative. A worried tone. A fake concern. She's struggling again. She didn't want us to tell anyone. We're just trying to protect her privacy. And like most lies in families, it spread quickly because it made people comfortable. People prefer a sad story over a confusing one. A daughter in rehab made sense. A daughter building a company in Europe did not. So they chose the easier version of me.
I didn't know any of this at first.
Because I had cut down contact. Not completely. Just enough to breathe. But one day, my cousin messaged me something strange. Hey, I'm really glad you're getting help. I stared at that message for a long time. Help. That was the first crack. Then came the whispers. The indirect questions. The awkward pauses during calls. Until finally I asked my mother directly. Why are people saying I'm in rehab? Her answer came calmly. Too calmly. I didn't want them to worry. That sentence should have sounded protective. But it didn't. It sounded controlled. Because she wasn't protecting me. She was shaping me. In her version of reality. I couldn't be independent. I couldn't be successful. I had to be broken. So she could remain in control of the narrative. That's when I stopped explaining myself. And started building louder. Months turned into years. My startup grew slowly at first. Then faster than I could process. Investors came in quietly. Then aggressively. The platform expanded into multiple countries. Germany.
Poland.
Netherlands. And still, I told my family nothing. Because I realized something important early on. Explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you is a waste of energy. So I stayed silent. Worked harder. Built further. Until one morning, everything changed. My phone lit up with notifications I didn't recognize. Forbes. Business Insider. Tech Europe Weekly. And one headline stopped me completely. A quiet founder disrupting global logistics from Berlin. My name. My company. My face.
Public.
I had been featured without even realizing it was being written. That same day, my inbox exploded. Investors. Partners. Former colleagues. And one message from a journalist asking for comment. But the message I wasn't prepared for came from home. My father. You should come to your mother's anniversary dinner this weekend. No mention of the article.
No acknowledgement.
Just an invitation. Something in my chest tightened immediately, because I knew they had seen it, and silence had already shifted from ignorance to strategy. I didn't respond right away. I just closed my laptop and stared out the window at Berlin's quiet streets. For years, I had imagined this moment differently. I thought success would feel like celebration, like freedom, like arrival. But instead, it felt like pressure. Because now, the truth was coming home. And so was I. The anniversary party was held in my mother's backyard. 60 guests. Elegant decorations. Soft music playing like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong there. The same people who believed I was in rehab. The same people who sent pity letters. The same people who built an entire version of me that never existed. I arrived quietly.
No announcement. No dramatic entrance.
Just a woman walking through a gate into a lie she had outgrown. For a few seconds, no one noticed me. Then someone did. A cousin froze mid-conversation. Then another. Then slowly, the entire atmosphere shifted. Whispers began instantly. Confusion first. Then recognition. Then shock. Because the broken daughter in rehab was standing right there. Healthy.
Composed.
Successful. My mother saw me last. Her smile didn't disappear immediately. It faltered. Just slightly. Like a mask slipping for half a second. Then she recovered. Everyone, she announced loudly, forcing brightness into her voice. This is Tori. She surprised us. Surprised us. As if I was a guest. Not the person they had erased and rewritten for years. I didn't respond. I just looked around slowly. Every face here had believed the same story. No one questioned it deeply enough to ask me directly. That's what silence does in families. It allows fiction to grow roots. My father stepped toward me.
Carefully.
Measuring the room. You should have told us you were doing better, he said quietly. I almost laughed. Better? I repeated softly. He didn't answer. Because we both knew that wasn't the issue. It was never about my well-being. It was about control over my narrative. My success disrupted their story. And that was unacceptable. A journalist standing near the patio suddenly stepped forward. I'm sorry, she said politely. Are you Tori Bennett from the Forbes feature? The entire backyard went silent instantly. 60 people. No sound. Just tension. I nodded. Yes. That single word cracked everything open. My mother's face changed immediately. For years she had been the storyteller. The narrator of my life. The author of my downfall. And now, someone else had published the truth. The journalist continued. Your company is listed as one of the fastest growing logistics platforms in Europe. A pause. That's incredible. The word incredible hit harder than any argument ever could. Because it wasn't emotional. It was factual. My mother finally spoke. Her voice tight. Controlled. She was recovering from personal issues during that time. There it was again. The rehab story. Still alive. Still rehearsed. I turned toward her slowly. Why did you tell everyone I was in rehab? The question wasn't loud. But it carried. My father looked down immediately. My cousins shifted uncomfortably. My mother exhaled sharply. I was worried, she said quickly.
No hesitation.
Too practiced. Worried about what? I asked. Silence. Then I added softly. I was building a company, not disappearing. A few guests glanced at each other.
Confusion spreading now.
Because the story didn't match the truth anymore. And that's the problem with lies. They only survive in silence. Once spoken aloud in daylight, they collapse. My mother stepped closer. Lowered her voice. You made us look like bad parents, she whispered. That sentence revealed everything. Not concern. Not love. Image. I nodded slowly. So that was the problem. My voice stayed calm. Almost gentle. You weren't protecting me. A pause. You were protecting yourselves. The backyard felt smaller suddenly. Heavier. My father finally spoke. We didn't know how to explain your absence. I looked at him directly. You could have told the truth. Silence again. Because the truth would have required accountability. And accountability is uncomfortable for people who prefer control. A guest near the table finally asked quietly, "So, she wasn't in rehab?" My mother answered quickly. She had struggles. Not an answer. A deflection. I turned toward the guests. "No," I said clearly. "I was not in rehab. I was building a company in Berlin." Murmurs spread immediately.
Shock?
Confusion. Admiration. Recalibration. People were rewriting their understanding of me in real time. And I could feel it.
The shift.
The collapse of a false narrative. My cousin stepped forward slowly. "So, all those messages we sent you." She hesitated. "We thought we were supporting you." I looked at her calmly. "You were supporting a version of me that never existed." That sentence landed quietly, but deeply. My mother's eyes filled slightly now. Not tears of remorse. Tears of losing control. "You didn't correct us," she said sharply. I nodded.
No, y replía.
"Because I stopped participating in the story you created about me." Silence again. This one different. Not tense. Revealing. The journalist quietly stepped back, sensing the real story unfolding wasn't hers to control. And then something unexpected happened. One guest stood up. Then another. Then another. Not against me. Not against her. But against the story itself. Because people don't like realizing they were part of a lie. My father finally spoke again. Quieter this time. "We thought you were lost." I looked at him for a long moment. "No," I said softly. "I was just somewhere you didn't expect me to succeed." That sentence stayed in the air longer than anything else. Because it wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was truth without permission. My mother sat down slowly. For the first time that evening, she looked unsure. Not powerful. Not controlling. Just human. But the damage had already been done years ago. Not that night. The damage was the rewriting. The isolation. The narrative built in my absence. I took a breath. "I didn't come here to punish anyone," I said calmly. "I came because I realized something important." A pause. Silence creates stories. And those stories eventually replace reality. No one spoke. Then I added gently, "I just chose to live in reality again." And with that, I turned and walked away.
No shouting. No confrontation.
No final speech. Just departure. Because success doesn't always need witnesses. But truth sometimes does. Weeks later, I received messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Some apologetic. Some confused. Some defensive. But I didn't respond immediately. Because I had learned something over those years in Berlin. You don't need to argue with every version of you someone creates. You just need to keep building the real one. And, eventually, reality does the correcting for you. Now, when people ask about my family, I don't lead with pain. I lead with boundaries. Because healing isn't about rewriting the past. It's about refusing to live inside someone else's version of it. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like freedom.